I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power! Fight the power!
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting. A movement of people, it's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the point where the prisons is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify. With you and God in time, I best align.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
How can I be a better father, son, a better grandson, honoring Fannie Lou's and the Fred Hamptons, the Harriets, the chariots that carry us to various areas that marry us to progress. Yeah, we the harvest, the lovely days and midnight marauders, even through charges and days of darkness. No, we in the hands of the greatest.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and White House correspondent, nowhere close to the snow. Right here in sunny LA in afternoon drive time with you. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Be sure to follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, DRNIIQ. That's all you got to do. Type in Dr. Nii-Q. And there I am, fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app. That way you can carry us with you everywhere you go. And listen to us live and on demand. And last but certainly not least, be sure to subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. That way you can take a listen at some of our best episodes, some of our most memorable conversations. And we have quite a lineup for you today. In our second hour, we're going to be talking about some of the trending headlines on the international affairs front. We'll be joined with Desiree Cormier-Smith. She is the co-founder of the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice. She'll be joining us, one of our resident More Perfect Union contributors. And in just a moment, we'll be joined with Dr. Jonathan Collins, Associate Professor of Political Science at the Columbia University. He is also our democracy scholar here on A More Perfect Union. And so we'll be getting to him in a second. But I want to shine a light on just sort of the community calendar. There is a lot happening across the country, a lot happening, particularly when it comes to organizing efforts. Folks across the country are gearing up. They're gearing up for this Saturday. You know what's happening this Saturday? The people aren't playing around. Ice out, a nationwide shutdown. Actually, I think it's Friday, the 30th, January 30th. If you go to nationalshutdown.us, it's gonna be a nationwide ice out. No work, no school, no shopping. Folks aren't playing around. A critical mass of Americans are saying enough, at least on the streets. So be sure to go to shutdown.us for all of the information should you decide to be a part of that peaceful national protest. Now, it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. Kicking us off, the LA Times reporting that President Trump has signed an executive order to preempt the permitting process for fire-destroyed homes in LA. This one hits very close to home. President Trump signed an executive order allowing wildfire victims to rebuild using federal funds through self-certification, bypassing state and local permitting requirements. Governor Gavin Newsom criticized the order, arguing that insufficient federal funding, not permitting delays, is the actual barrier to rebuilding the fire-devastated communities. And some residents agree that money is the core issue, questioning whether the administrative changes address their fundamental challenge of affording reconstruction. Beware of those wolf tickets out there, because it sounds like that executive order might be issuing some wolf tickets as well. In other news, a person has been shot in an incident involving Border Patrol in Arizona. USA Today is reporting that a person suffered major injuries after being shot during an incident involving U.S. Border Patrol just this morning. The Pima County Sheriff's Department said that it responded to a shooting involving a Border Patrol in Arivica, an unincorporated community that the southern part of the state, about 10 miles north of the border with Mexico. The Santa Rita Fire District confirmed that the person was shot near miles post 15 of West Arivica Road. The scene is just over 50 miles southwest of the city of Tucson. The person was taken to the hospital with critical injuries after the shooting. Brooke A. Brennan, a U.S. Department of Justice spokesperson with the FBI Phoenix office, said the incident took place at 7 a.m. local time and involved an alleged assault on a federal officer. Now, where have we heard this before? An alleged assault of a federal officer ending in a shooting? Not tasers, not batons. There doesn't seem to be any evidence of any de-escalation that might have taken place, but you better believe we're going to stay on it as these exchanges between law enforcement and protesters, law enforcement and American citizens is becoming all too frequent. You know what else is becoming all too frequent? Calls for the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, to resign. In fact, for Kristi Noem, an impeachment threat is growing. USA Today reporting that after Alex Pretty's killing at the hands of Border Patrol agents, a growing chorus of Democrats are calling for the impeachment of the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. While the odds of her removal remain long in the GOP-controlled Congress, the shift, it underscores the serious nature of an ongoing political crisis since the fatal shooting in Minnesota has prompted both a groundswell of activism from Democrats and rare Republican criticism of the White House. More than 2/3 of Democrats in the House now support impeaching Noem, who is the former Republican governor of South Dakota and an unwavering ally of President Trump. An impeachment resolution against Noem has picked up steam in the days since the federal agents shot and killed Pretty, a VA intensive care unit nurse. The measure now has nearly 150 co-sponsors. And speaking of Congress, NPR reporting that in the wake of Alex Pretty's death, Congress appears on track for a partial shutdown. That's right, the second deadly shooting of a U.S. citizen by federal immigration officers in Minneapolis is raising the prospects of a partial government shutdown at the end of the week. Senate Democrats say that they will not vote to fund the Department of Homeland Security without new guardrails for immigration enforcement, but that opposition may also torpedo the larger $1.3 trillion spending package needed to keep large swaths of the federal government operational past Friday night, Democrats were already raising alarms about the conduct of immigration officers before the latest killing in Minneapolis on Saturday. Last week, all but 7 House Democrats voted against the funding bill covering Homeland Security, which includes money for immigration and customs enforcement and customs and border protection. And so, look, are Senate Democrats going to be about this life or not? Are Senate Democrats going to blink or not? Are Senate Democrats going to draw a line in the sand and move forward with the consequence should Republicans jump the line? That's the energy we want to see. That's why folks are out in the streets. In places like Minneapolis, by the way, in the streets in sub-zero temperatures. That's how serious it is. That's how cold their activism is right now in places like Minneapolis. When we come forward, we're digging into more of the biggest trending headlines today with Dr. Jonathan E. Collins. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
If you owe back taxes, listen carefully to rule number 1. Never go up against the IRS alone. They're cracking down, freezing bank accounts, garnishing paychecks, canceling passports. Even your home or business could be at risk. But here's what they don't tell you. The IRS has powerful tax relief programs that could save you thousands if you qualify. That's why smart people call Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax resolution firm. Nobody knows these programs like the experts at Optima. Their team of tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $2 billion in tax debt for people just like you. The IRS is not stopping, so don't wait. And don't take them on alone. For tax help you need, for tax help you can trust, call Optima today for a free consultation.
Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Drop it! Hey, KBLA delegation, you know what's better than laughing? Laughing while celebrating the legends who made us laugh in the first place. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to present our annual Black History Month luncheon. And this year, we're honoring comedy greats, trailblazers who broke barriers, and funny bones at the same time.
You had to grow up early when we was growing up because your parents were sent to the store to buy. You was too young to buy. I want you to go to the store, get me a 5th of gin and a pack of cigarettes. Mama, I'm 2. They ain't gonna let me have that. Here, take this note. You be a little boy walking down the street with liquor and cigarettes. And your neighbors be going, that's a good little boy right there.
We need a little levity right about now. So we're rolling out the red carpet for comedy royalty. D.L. Hughley, Melanie Camacho, Earthquake, Lunel, Dion Cole, Martin Lawrence, and a surprise guest appearance. It's going up Thursday, February 26th in downtown LA at the Grammy Museum. An unforgettable afternoon of stories, celebration, and yes, plenty of laughs. Because let's be real, these legends don't just tell jokes. They have changed the game, opened doors, and made history while making us smile.
You gotta go to child support court. You gotta get there real early in the morning. You see brothers going into court. You see them come out 3 hours later. I can't pay this. Let me talk to you, baby. Please, let me talk to the witness, Sean. Let me talk to the witness. Brother be working for 3 weeks, get his check is $43.
This year, for the first time ever, we have set aside a limited number of individual tickets for the luncheon. They are going to go fast, and when they're gone, they're gone. So if you want a single ticket, or if your company or organization wants to sponsor a table, move swiftly and get to KBLA1580.com right now. All these comedy giants in one room on one stage at the same time? Stop it! This event is going to sell out quicker than right now and sooner than at once. KBLA Talk 1580's annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum. It's gonna be legendary, just like them.
What's up? What's up? What's up?
You got to laugh the pain away.
Hit me. National news, the consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and always my pleasure to be in conversation with my brother, Dr. Jonathan E. Collins. He is Associate Professor of Political Science at Columbia University, also our democracy scholar here on A More Perfect Union. Always here to help us separate the fact from the fiction. Welcome, Dr. Collins.
Dr. Needs, thank you for that introduction. That cleans things up after the weather bragging that you had to do earlier in the segment. I'm not on the East Coast and all that snow.
I mean, look, I poured a cup of tea in honor of you and others this morning, right? Yeah. I'm sending you warm thoughts.
Warm thoughts. Snow up to my hip, and he sends warm thoughts.
I mean, my goodness. I mean, I didn't have to deal with Snowmageddon. I think it was in 2009. And this is the closest to Snowmageddon I've seen, and I'm glad that I have a little bit of distance today.
This is bad. Yeah. I'm envious of you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, listen, let's get to some of these headlines. We know that Tom Homan, who is the president's guy, is on the ground. The president's border czar, Tom Homan, was sent to Minnesota to manage the ICE operation on the ground. The president is trying to reshuffle his immigration operation amid widespread backlash to two very high-profile killings, the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. And we know that the Minnesota governor, Tim Walz, he met with Homan today, and they agreed on the need for an ongoing dialogue and will continue working towards those goals. That's what the governor's office said. Homan and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey also met. Are we starting to see this situation de-escalate? And if so, do you attribute it largely to the folks in the streets or a few courageous Republicans that have been willing to go on record and say the quiet part out loud?
Well, I do want to show the utmost respect and admiration for the protesters who have been out in the streets in Minneapolis and other parts of Minnesota. They've shown tremendous courage. They have shown essentially what makes us American. The ability to see power, speak truth to it, utilizing the freedoms and liberties in ways that make this country better and more fair and more perfect. So nothing but respect for them. But in terms of whether or not we're seeing progress on de-escalating this situation, any optimism I had about that went down the toilet when I saw that Tom Homan was involved with this. Dr. Nee, let's talk a little bit about Tom Homan. So he got his, he got his career start working in ICE. He's a longtime ICE veteran. His first major appointment to ICE came in 2014. He was actually appointed by President Barack Obama. The issue is Homan was so out there. He was so extreme that the Obama administration started to kind of distance itself from its practices. You remember, Dr. Nee, when there was this whole issue of separating children from their parents at the border? Tom Homan is known as the father of this policy. He was the biggest supporter of it. Tom Homan's idea of actually strengthening border protections was to do this because he was arguing that if we separated kids from their parents, this could be a major deterrent from folks in other countries, especially thinking about south of the U.S. border, from entering onto U.S. soil. That the main way to keep parents out, to keep immigrants out of this country, is the threat of separating them from their children. Nothing about them being violent, nothing about them being a threat to public safety, just the sheer idea that they wanted to cross the border justified this idea of removal from their kids. And so he was actually demoted by the Obama administration and then gets promoted during the first Trump term And then he really gets it cracking. I mean, he becomes director of ICE. He releases this statement that basically says all quote unquote illegal immigrants, quote unquote, should be afraid. Like, he is ICE enforcement in a violent and inhumane way personified. And so this person, who then Trump resummons again during his second administration, says, this is going to be our guy. This is who is at the table with Tim Walz talking about a potential de-escalation. I'm not buying it, Dr. Nii.
And speaking of the child separation, Tom Homan being the father of that reprehensible child separation policy on the border, NBC News reporting that a judge has said that the 5-year-old, remember the 5-year-old who was detained in Minnesota? They can't be moved. This federal judge issued a temporary restraining order that blocks the Trump administration from removing a 5-year-old boy who was detained by immigration authorities in Minnesota last week. Liam Conejo Ramos was taken with his father, Adrian Alexander Conejo Arias, after the pair returned home from Liam's preschool. That's according to the superintendent of public schools there. The Department of Homeland Security said that the father fled from agents who approached his car, leaving Liam. And they said, for child safety, one of our ICE officers remained with the child while the other officers apprehended the father. Both Liam and his father were moved from Minnesota to Texas. And restraining orders say that they are in the Dilley Immigration Processing Center. Dr. Jonathan, you are a father. You are a scholar. You are a political scientist. What do you make of this?
Hey, look, if you want to break a person's heart 1,000 times over, separate them from the child. That's the easy way to do it, because there's nothing more heartbreaking than that. And so you've seen Republicans, and especially the highest profile Republican actually coming out and defending this was Vice President J.D. Vance. And J.D. Vance says, well, what are we supposed to do? Leave the kid out in the freezing cold? You know what you're supposed to do? You're supposed to not arrest and detain the father, separating the father from the child in the first place, especially when all the father is being accused of is being in the U.S. seeking asylum. There is zero record of the father showing any kind of violent behavior. There is no evidence whatsoever that this father was a threat to public safety. This idea that he had to be detained, and therefore that there had to be some decision made about how and where to locate the child is insane. We looked right past the first step, which was humanity, and went straight to insanity.
I think you're absolutely right. And, let's all remember that this is about paperwork. This is about whether or not you have the paperwork that says that you should be here or you shouldn't be here. Are you who you say you are? And, there's got to be a better way. In fact, we've seen examples of a better way to do this from other presidents. This one just seems to be devoid of complete humanity. And the fact that this kid was transported from Minnesota to Texas and is in a processing center where their father is, right? I mean, what child psychologist in America would endorse this approach?
Right. There is in no way a justification for the idea that this child is better off in this scenario. I think a lot of folks have, it's interesting to me how, we as Black Americans tend to have a very unique voice when it comes to thinking about protests, and especially protests against law enforcement. And I think a part of it is we have to be the ones to articulate what it actually means and feels like to encounter law enforcement. I think there's still this idea that the man in blue is a friend to you, and not this idea that that person with a gun strapped to their waist, with metal cuffs strapped to the other side, and that has the ability to restrict your movement at any time, this is terrifying. That at any moment, at the discretion of this person who is supposed to be a friend to you, at this person's discretion at any given moment, you can go from living a happy and free life to your hands behind your back riding in the back of a car.
And that's if you get to the back of the car.
Back of the car.
I mean, as we saw so tragically in Minnesota, we saw sort of a life taken, execution style. And we've seen it now at least a couple times. And that's not okay. There's nothing about this that is a part of the training that local law enforcement goes through in this country. There's nothing about this that represents a guardian mentality in the community. And everything about this represents a gladiator mentality that will not end well. When we come forward, speaking of guns, Minneapolis shooting has folks scrambling around Second Amendment politics for Trump. Prominent Republicans and gun rights advocates have helped elicit a White House turnabout this week after bristling over the administration's characterization of Alex Pretty, the second person killed this month by a federal officer in Minneapolis, as responsible for his own death because he lawfully possessed a weapon. Are things beginning to turn as it relates to the Second Amendment? Is the NRA going to be at odds with the Trump administration and policies that make it okay to kill somebody who may simply be possessing a weapon that they are permitted to possess? We're going to get Dr. Collins' take on this and more when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
The audience is listening. Thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. President Trump says he has no plans to replace Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, even as his administration reviews ICE operations in Minneapolis.
I think she's doing a very good job.
Trump says he wants a fair investigation into the shooting death of Alex Pretty in Minneapolis. President Trump had signed an executive order aimed at speeding up wildfire rebuilding in Los Angeles County, promising to cut red tape in hard-hit areas like Pacific Palisades and historically Black neighborhood Altadena. The president blamed California Governor Gavin Newsom and Black Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass for what he called failures in wildfire preparation, response, and recovery, though it's still unclear how much impact the order will have. In North Carolina, Central University is earning national recognition for its online programs, ranking third among HBCUs and ninth overall in North Carolina. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Crash in Paramount on the 710 northbound before Rosecrans has been cleared out of lanes. Delays are loading up from the south end of the 710 freeway all the way from Ocean Boulevard. A wreck in Inglewood has wrapped as well. 405 southbound before Florence. Everything's off to the shoulder and the drive is slowing out of West LA, heading away from Wilshire Boulevard. The drive into Corona, loading up on that 91 eastbound away from the 57 freeway. Overall slowing ahead to Green River.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
At the end of the regular season, 10 NFL teams were looking for a head coach. 7 of those teams have hired a new head coach, but none of the openings went to an African-American. Cleveland, Arizona, and the Las Vegas Raiders are the last remaining teams still interviewing candidates. It would not be a good look for the NFL which preaches diversity, to have 10 openings for a head coach, and none of those jobs are filled by an African American. At the moment, only 3 of the NFL's 32 teams have an African American head coach. Aaron Glenn with the New York Jets, Todd Bowles with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and D'Amico Ryan with the Houston Texans. The odds makers in Vegas list Seattle as a 4.5-point favorite over New England in the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 60 is scheduled for February 8th in Santa Clara, the home stadium of the San Francisco 49ers. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Pick up the drums.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chucky. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and he's Dr. Jonathan E. Collins, professor of political science at Columbia University, our resident democracy scholar. And look, we got an issue with the Second Amendment here, at least an issue among folks on the right. The killing of Alex Pretty in Minneapolis has caused a number of folks to sort of lean in on this argument that's out there in the ether that suggests that because he had a gun on him, because he was carrying a gun on his person, on his waist, you know, that he represented some sort of imminent threat. We all heard it right after he was killed. We heard some of the senior most officials of the Trump administration attempt to smear him, attempt to call him a terrorist, attempt to make it seem as if he was the aggressor, when the video illustrates quite the opposite. This death though, hasn't produced any clear shifts in U.S. gun politics or policy, even as President Trump is shuffling around folks in charge of this immigration crackdown. But that hasn't stopped important voices in Trump's coalition who've called for a thorough investigation of Alex Preddy's death while also criticizing inconsistencies in some Republicans' Second Amendment stances. This is giving a lot of people on the right a lot of heartburn, because if this dynamic persists, it could give Republicans problems heading into the midterm elections. Dr. Collins, is this an opening for not just Democrats, but everyone who is in opposition to Trump's immigration agenda? Does this create an opening to basically turn this into a wedge issue among conservatives, in the same way we've seen conservatives in years past create wedge issues for folks on the left?
Oh, absolutely, because it's an opportunity to finally put ICE in the context it should be placed in. So, Dr. Nee, the Second Amendment, right to bear arms. This is a very old American relic. The Second Amendment emerges out of the Revolutionary War, when the faithful patriots, as trying to escape the tyranny of the British, needed to bear arms in defense as they were being invaded by their father empire. And even after the Revolutionary War is successful, the right to bear arms remains as a core feature of the U.S. Constitution, because the U.S. These early patriots believed that the right to bear arms was essential to keeping a small state-level militia. What they were concerned with was that, well, if we take away the right to bear arms, this creates the impetus for a national army that could then be weaponized against an unarmed citizenry.
Imagine that.
Fast forward to what we have now. A national army being weaponized against its own citizenry, instead of relying on a state militia that would essentially be summoned and mobilized by Tim Walz, the governor. Right? That's how this is supposed to work. If there is some sort of threat that requires military intervention in a domestic situation, the governor will turn to the National Guard of that state and deploy troops. Why does the governor not do this in Minnesota before ICE even steps foot inside the state? Because there was nothing that needed to be intervened on. The whole reason why ICE is even in Minnesota in the first place is welfare fraud.
Mm-hmm.
Welfare fraud. That there was suspicion that some of the Somalis living in Minnesota were defrauding the healthcare and the Medicare system. Even if this were true, does that sound violent to you? Does that sound like reason to send in an armed militia to indiscriminately apprehend and kill folks on the streets? And so, Mr. Preddy, utilizing his Second Amendment right to bear arms, and there's no evidence in that video that he was even reaching for and making contact with the weapon before being killed. And so he was not being a threat by keeping a firearm attached to him. And yet and still, we see his transition into the afterlife happen live on video. And if you're a Second Amendment person, this is the moment that, again, should give you context on how you see ICE. Again, this is what we were supposedly afraid of, right? A national militia armed against its citizens. This is the moment. If this doesn't wake you up and say, okay, yeah, we got to take to the streets and we got to shut this down. And I'm not talking about we as in folks who are already taken to the streets. I'm talking about we as in ARA, the NRA.
Mm-hmm. It's worth noting that White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, she told reporters that, quotes, the president supports the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding American citizens. Absolutely. Leavitt qualified that saying, quotes, when you are bearing arms and confronted by law enforcement, you are raising the risk of force being used against you. To me, it seems as if the White House press secretary really put her foot in her mouth in saying that, and in an attempt to try and clean this up for folks experiencing heartburn in the Trump coalition. I'm talking about Second Amendment advocates experiencing heartburn, NRA folks experiencing heartburn, that it seems to me that the White House press secretary made it worse. She said the quiet part out loud. She said, quotes, when you are bearing arms and confronted by law enforcement, you are raising the risk of force being used against you. That is un-American, is it not?
It is not. And if anything, it's justification for the opposite scenario of what should have happened. And what would we have been saying if Mr. Pretty had actually been using his Second Amendment rights to defend himself? Because he was the one who was under attack. Like, you're opening up a can of worms that you don't want to open up by inviting this conversation. The easiest thing to do is to just to show empathy and understanding for the situation. Admit that all of this ICE intervention is a mistake. Michael Jackson gave us arguably one of the most important dances of all time, the moonwalk. Practice it now. Moonwalk away from this. You don't have to do this. But here we are. And this is where we're going to be. I think this is a major vulnerability for the Trump coalition heading into the midterms. And the question is, will Democrats, will they seize upon this? This is a wedge issue that is raising his hand and saying, pick me. This is a major wedge issue because it is such a departure. It's such a departure from at least what we have aspired to do as a government for some time. And so the fact that the White House press secretary, again, for the folks who are joining us live now, if you didn't catch it, the White House press secretary said, and I quote, when you are bearing arms and confronted by law enforcement, you are raising the risk of force being used against you. Against you. Take that in, moms and dads out there. Take that in, uncles and aunties out there. Take that in, law enforcement officials out there. You know, it's also not lost on me. I think a number of folks in law enforcement, they want to return home to their families safe and sound. And my suspicion is that when they hear senior officials from the White House, like the White House press secretary, saying stuff like this, that doesn't make them feel safe. That does not give them added confidence that the White House is creating a national environment that will allow them to be able to do their job, by the book, and return home to their families safely. And another thing that we're not talking nearly enough about, stand your ground. What happened to all the stand your ground advocates that were out there? Y'all remember when George Zimmerman made it his business to patrol Trayvon Martin as he was walking home in his neighborhood? And y'all remember how George Zimmerman was the aggressor in that situation. And y'all remember how that whole situation, how it unleashed this conversation around stand your ground laws, in which case so many of them are in place. But my question is, well, what happens when an ICE agent approaches someone who feared for their life
and felt the need to stand their ground. And so to all the Second Amendment advocates out there, all the NRA members out there, all the stand your ground advocates out there, y'all need to have a meeting. And when the meeting's over, you're welcome to come here on A More Perfect Union to tell us the top lines from that very important meeting. Because the folks that you've been supporting in public office, they're not in alignment with what you say your mission is. They're not in alignment with the rights that you say you exist to defend. When we come forward, we're switching gears and we're going to talk all about TikTok. Yeah, TikTok and the kids. Spoiler alert, all the kids aren't all right. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Voices invites you to the LA premiere of Major, an exciting new dance theater performance exploring the legacy of Major at dance. Directed by award-winning choreographer Ogemdi Ude, Major combines music and movement to explore what it means to be proudly Black and proudly femme. Join us on Wednesday, February 4th at USC's Bovard Auditorium. Reserve your free ticket now at visionsandvoices.usc.edu. That's visionsandvoices.usc.edu. Still battling a thirsty lawn that guzzles water and drains your wallet? Let LADWP turn that patch of grass into a gorgeous, drought-smart garden for free. We're talking a full California-friendly landscape makeover designed and installed by pros at no cost to you. That's right, LADWP does the work, you get the upgrade. Ready to transform your yard and save big? Visit ladwp.com/leap. That's ladwp.com/LEAP.
When the Eaton fire tore through our community, the loss was immediate, but the impact didn't end when the flames went out.
Between today and the fires, we moved 16 times.
I haven't been able to sleep, and I don't know when.
Ashes and Echoes presents an immersive oral history exhibit created to preserve the voices of residents, business owners, and community members who lived through the fire.
I heard evacuate. I said, okay, it's time for me to go.
I think about it every day. Every little thing reminds me about the fire.
These stories are preserved for generations, not as headlines, but as lived truth.
I'm going to miss a community that kind of saw people for who they are.
I'm so grateful to my mother for raising us there because she wanted to raise us in that type of environment.
Join us January 31st through February 3rd at the Pasadena Convention Center. Admission is free and open to the public. Come listen, come remember, come heal. Visit ashesandechoes.org for more info.
LA Fire Justice is proud to sponsor Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's do this. On the evening of Monday, January 26th, something special happened. Hundreds of people joined me for a live preview session on the anatomy of a great conversation, and we went deep, for starters, on the notion of curiosity. I mean, real curiosity. The kind that transforms how you connect with anyone, anywhere. We explored why most conversations fall flat, and I revealed 3 of the top 5 killers of curiosity that sabotage even the best communicators. But here's the thing, we only scratched the surface. The full 4-week journey begins Monday, February 16th with the founding members cohort. This course is for podcasters, leaders, entrepreneurs, anyone who knows that your next great opportunity can begin or end with the quality of a conversation. Space in this founding cohort is limited, so go to TavishTalks.com right now. That's TavishTalks.com. Click register or scan the QR code. Don't let this conversation happen without you.
We face tragedy, but we don't
fall into despair.
we continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. Like I just said before we went to commercial, the kids are not all right. I'm talking about social media. How social media is harmful to our kids. Meta and YouTube, they face a trial after TikTok just settled a suit. The LA Times reporting that jury selection was set to begin in LA County Superior Court today in a lawsuit that alleges that social media companies that they cause harm to children. TikTok and Snap, they reached settlements before the civil trial, but Meta and YouTube appear set to proceed. The LA case is a bellwether for at least 2,500 similar lawsuits pending in state and federal court. We know that TikTok has agreed to settle the first in a series of closely watched product liability cases, bowing out on the eve of this landmark trial that could upend how social media giants engage their youngest users and leave these tech titans on the hook for billions in damages. Dr. Collins, again, you're looking at the situation not just as a political scientist, but also as a dad. What do you make of the seeming evasiveness from social media companies when it comes to this question of harm done to our kids?
Well, it shows that social media companies at the top are just interested in greed and not honest with themselves about the detrimental effects. So if you look at, the landscape beyond just the story, this is not the first instance where we've seen this kind of policy hammer come down against social media. So there are currently about as many as 15 countries that are in the process of implementing some sort of social media ban for kids, because there have been study after study coming out showing that overexposure to social media by kids leads to emotional distress, negative views of the self, even self-harm, and weakening social ties and social relationships with peers. And there's been no evidence that social media actually enhances the social or academic environment for kids. Essentially, everything that the research is telling us about social media is that this is bad. And you look at the US being a country that we were so committed to this idea of a war on drugs, because they told us that drugs were terrible for our population, but especially for kids. We got to get drugs off the streets. We can't get drugs in the hands of innocent people because they're dangerous and they're harmful. Mm-hmm. Social media might be that, but worse. As again, everything that we're seeing scientifically is telling us this is bad. Our sort of developed country peers are actively banning social media accounts and websites from access to kids. We're the last to the party, actually, when it comes to this. And you say, well, why are we last? Well, we're last because these social media giants are incredibly addicted to the idea of profit. And this is not even to say the social media companies are actually profitable, because they're not. They actually don't make money. They have a lot of quote unquote value, but they're actually not revenue generating. But TikTok, because of this big sale, because President Trump forced the sale of a TikTok from ByteDance, the company that originally constructed it, that founded it in China, because we forced this American sale, these new owners, they're like, we have to make money. We got to recoup our investment. We have to generate profit. And the way to generate profit is to create as many eyes on screens as possible and create the condition for selling ads.
Well, that is, it has a lot of people over at TikTok, I would imagine, experiencing a little bit of heartburn. The Associated Press reporting that TikTok faces app deletions over censorship claims and glitches in just days after the ownership change that you are talking about. Censorship claims, technical problems, and a report of a surge in app deletions are just some of the challenges that TikTok is facing as it adjusts to this new ownership structure in the United States. The company said on Monday that it was experiencing, quote, major infrastructure issue triggered by a power outage at one of its U.S. data center partner sites. And the outage led to bugs such as creators temporarily seeing 0 views on their videos, even if people had looked at them, as well as slow load times and timeout requests. On Tuesday, TikTok said it had made significant progress restoring services, but that's not the only thing that people are paying attention to. People are on edge about their data being misused. They are on edge about TikTok, seemingly becoming a tool for allies of Trump. Are people right to feel that way?
Well, absolutely. Because again, if TikTok is now under pressure to make money, and here's the thing that should really concern us, is that so this new acquisition of TikTok is essentially led by 3 different entities, U.S. entities. Oracle, which fine, this is a kind of a tried and true company that has shown the capacity for data storage, data infrastructure. That's fine. But this company called Silver Lake, which is essentially a private equity firm of big Silicon Valley investors, they're in the mix as well. And then some company called MGX, which is actually a Saudi-backed investment fund. And so you say to yourself, well, let's look at Silver Lake and let's look at this Abu Dhabi-backed fund, and guess what interest they have in TikTok's persistence. I can tell you it's way more an investment in profit than it is in the ability of maintaining transparency and openness and freedom. These are folks that are committed to and have relationships with authoritarianism.
Yeah.
Why should we expect TikTok not to embody that now?
You're right. And we're going to have to leave it there. My thanks to Dr. Jonathan E. Collins, holding it down as professor of political science over at Columbia University, also our resident democracy scholar. Thanks for breaking it down as only you can.
Thank you, sir. Back to the cold I go.
You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. The White House says President Trump does not want anyone killed during ICE operations in Minneapolis.
Governor Walz and Mayor Fry have shamefully blocked local and state police from cooperating with ICE.
Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt called the shooting death of Alex Preddy a tragedy and blamed Democratic leaders for fueling unrest. Black Detroit, Michigan Mayor Mary Sheffield is launching a crackdown on non-compliant senior housing. The new program targets complaints like broken elevators and delayed maintenance, with the city now